السلام عليكم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Alhamdulillah, we make shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity for us to continue with our lesson in the commentary of Aqaid Nasafiyyah, and we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with the understanding, and may Allah make this lesson any reason where our sins are forgiven, our prayers are answered. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with iman and taqwa, ameen ya rabbal alameen. So today, as what we mentioned, we try to do online and at the same time a Zoom connection. So hopefully if there is any questions from those who are attending, it can be addressed in the class. So this is what we are going to do. We go back we went back into online. So inshallah we will see how, if we can do it on site, and we go back on site. And the reason why I wanted to do online because of, I think it is easier for people to follow, and likewise when we have the Arabic text and the English text displayed on the screen, it will be better for people to for those who are following to understand, and the fact that this subject is not an easy subject. So inshallah anything in future, inshallah I will update to our WhatsApp group. So without wasting any time, inshallah we will enter into the book. So those who are following it through Zoom, and you can refer to the Facebook or the YouTube for the online text that I place on the screen. So inshallah, as usual, and before we continue with our lesson, and just a recap of what we have covered last week. Last week, when we were on site, we are speaking about Jawharul Fard. So basically, this idea came about when the author speaks about the al-a'yan. He mentioned that the universe is comprised of two elements. The universe is comprised of two elements, and the meaning of universe is ghayrullah. It's what we mentioned. Anything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is considered to be al-alam. So al-alam, he said, it comprised of two elements. And what the first element is al-a'yan. Al-a'yan. The second element is al-a'raḍ. So we have al-a'yan and we have al-a'raḍ. Al-a'yan is the plural of ayn, al-a'raḍ is the plural of a'raḍ. Under a'yan, we mentioned last week, and we have jawhar and jism. We have jawhar and jism, and the difference between jawhar and jism, one is compounded, the other one is not compounded. So we gave an example of the atom. So we have a substance, substance is made up of atoms. So when it is comprised of parts, it is considered to be jism, a body of substance, jism. But if it is what you call it an atom, we call it jawhar. So substances are made up of atoms. So this is a bit difference between jawhar and jism. So jawhar, we can imagine it is the smaller part of jism. It is a smaller part of jism. And I mentioned in the last lesson, it is important for us, like when we are reading any books, like the one that we are reading, when the author speaks about ilmul kalam and so on, and speaks about jawhar and a'raḍ, it is important for us to be able to understand and to find the connection between this knowledge and the knowledge of science, because there is no contradiction. What scientific discoveries nowadays when it comes to atoms and molecules, it is something that is accepted by everyone. Today, people do not have any difficulty in understanding that substances are made up of atoms. But last time, the philosophers, they are different. They do not have any such understanding. They deny the concept of having a single atom. This is their kind of understanding last time. But today, we might not find any people who have that kind of understanding. So Al-Imam Taftazani, he goes quite lengthily speaking about the fault of the philosophers of not any accepting any this concept any of jawharul fard, of the indivisible any atom. When we study physics and when we study, for example, in chemistry, when we study any about any the atom any consists any of the nucleus, and then we have the protons and the electrons. So all this any is functionality any is it functions any in a way where the function are ascribed, and it has any its own relative any function. So each atom any has its own any function. So we can translate any the word any jawhar as atom, and this is what you find in the translation. The translator translated the word jawhar any as atom. So we do not have any difficulty any in understanding that every substance consists any of atoms, and there is any a single atom any that cannot be divided. The single atom any that cannot be divided. So the atom any in the scientific any sense can be referred any to jawharul fard. So the reason why I'm just explaining any this again, just any to make sure that those any who are reading the text and that we cover any last week do not any be troubled any by some any of the things any which you find it any difficult any to understand. So basically, Al-Imam Taftazani any is trying any to convince us that there is any a reality any of jawharul fard. So today it is witnessed any by the technology any that we have. So we don't have any problems any with this issue any anymore. And even when you speak any to the atheists, they will agree any with you, correct or not? And you can speak any to anyone today. Many people and study science, and many people and study physics. People do not have any this any difficulty, because it is witness. It is witness. So going back any to jawhar. So now is the thing, and going back any to jawhar. So we mentioned that if it is compounded, it is jism. So this is the difference between jawhar and jism. So for example, me, a human being, and is jism, correct? Now this, I'm a body, and my body and is made up of parts. And jawahir, all the cells and molecules and atoms is considered any to be jawhar. So this is one part any of the universe. One part of the universe any is substance. The other part any is accident, and this is the thing any that we are going any to into it any today, inshallah ta'ala. So inshallah, those who is it? Nazir any later on, and you can read and from the part any of the accident. But before any we go to the accident, it is important any for us any to differentiate what is a substance and what is an accident. Even in English terminology, we say substance and accident. In Arabic, and we call it jawhar or jism or and ardh. Jawhar and ardh. So let me give you this example any again, so that any we all of us inshallah ta'ala we can understand it without any problem. So this is an example. I use the example, or maybe I use the example of myself. I use the example any of myself. And we mentioned that what you call it, human beings any is a body, correct? Not I am any a body. The color of my skin any is what? The color any of my skin is an accident. So what is the difference any between a substance and an accident? A substance, we say it stands on its own, whereas an accident doesn't stand on its own. This is any the term any that we have been using any so far. So last week any I mentioned what is any the meaning any when we say something that stands on its own. Basically it means any you cannot put anything in its place, because he has taken up any certain space. So we gave an example. For example, if I am sitting here, if there is another human being any, he cannot any take any my place. He cannot any take my place. Because why? Because we stand any on our own, and in that sense we stand any on our own, different any from accident. Accident subsists any within substance. The color any of my skin, it subsists any in me. It subsists any in me, meaning you cannot remove it. You cannot any remove it any from the substance. It is always subsisting any in a substance. So it is not independent of substance. The moment any you remove it, any meaning it becomes any non-existence. So this is the nature of accident. So in short, any we say that substances any are bodies any that stand any on its own, whereas accident any is what you call it, something that subsists any within that body. So the accident and is always with the body. It cannot be separated. Accidents cannot be separated any from the body. Likewise, when comes to movement, movement is an accident. Movement is an accident. Can you imagine any movement without a body? Can movement in itself be in existence? And impossible, correct or not? Like for example, if I'm moving my hand is a substance and it's a body, correct or not? The movement of my hand is the accident. The movement of my hand is the accident. So we cannot remove any movement from the body. So these are the differences, some of the differences between what is a body and what is an accident. So we will find Al-Imam Tafzazani and he will go on to speak a lot about the nature of accidents and why accidents are contingencies. Accidents are considered to be contingencies. So he is going to prove to us that accidents just like substances both are contingencies. Before that, if we read for example, before that, the author mentioned if the question is raised whether there is any benefit resulting from this position which is different from the philosophers, this is pertaining to Jawharul Fard. Last week, we cover about Jawharul Fard because the philosophers they do not believe that there is that substances are what you call it made up of a single from the single atom. The philosophers last time they do not have this. They do not have this belief. So the author, after rebutting the philosophers, the author mentioned what is the importance of us in establishing Jawharul Fard, in establishing the existence of atoms. The reason, the benefit that we can get is that we can rebut their idea that the universe is pre-eternal, because the philosophers they believe the universe is pre-eternal, and the universe is pre-eternal and eternal, meaning there is no end to the universe. Just like they say there is no beginning to the universe, they also say there is no end to the universe. So by understanding about the existence of atoms, we can understand that the universe is contingent. That the universe is contingent. This is different from what the philosophers is saying. So this is the first benefit. The second benefit, he say that human what you call it bodies are eternal. That there is no such thing as the end to the universe. So they believe in the eternality of the universe. So the scholars of Kalam they are proving that the universe is contingent. Contingent meaning it has a beginning and there will be an end to this, to this universe. And the argument used by the scholars of Kalam is the concept of Jawhar and Ardh. Since the universe is made up of atoms and accidents, substances and accidents, where substances comprise of the atoms, this itself is an evidence that the universe is contingent. So this is where the important factors come. How are we able going to prove that the universe is contingent? So to simplify things, we say that the universe consists of the Jawhar and the Ardh. So we have spoken some extent about substances. So now he is going to speak about the accident. So let me. Okay, maybe someone can who is it? Nazir, can you read the English one? So we are going to read the English translation first now. Continue.
If the question is raised whether there is any benefit resulting from this position which is different from that of the philosophers, we reply that there is. In establishing the pure atom, we escape many of the obscurities of the philosophers, such as the positing of primary matter, hayuli, and form, surah, which leads to the eternity of the world.
Now, this is the philosophers, because of their rejection of the atoms, they believe that the universe is pre-eternal, that the universe is not created. It is the universe it is any by its form. It exists any by its form, and not any what you call it, any comprise any of the atoms. That's what any we mentioned. Now, continue.
Denial of the resurrection of the body.
Denial of the resurrection of the body, because they believe any that bodies any are what you call it are eternal, and there is no end to what you call it to the beings in within any the universe. Now,
and many of the fundamental laws of measurement, al-handasa, upon which obscurities rest, the continual motion of the heavenly spheres, and also the denial of the rending al-khalq, of them and their being coalesced together again.
So basically, Al-Imam At-Taftazini is saying that the establishment of the atoms, the existence of the atoms, it repels their arguments of the pre-eternity of the universe, and also the eternity of bodies. So this is basically the summary of what he is saying. So now our lesson today, we begin by speaking about the Ardh. Now continue. All this we have covered now.
And the accident is something that does not subsist in itself, but it subsists in something else by being incident to it, having its boundaries, or by being specialized by it, just as something descriptive is specialized by the thing described,
okay,
as has already been said.
So now when we are going to analyze this is important. This is like the definition. The author is speaking about the definition of an accident. So we mentioned that the universe is comprised of substance and accident. طيب, we have spoken about substance and we spoke about atoms. Substance basically is made up of atoms. So when atoms they combine, they are compounded and they become bodies. This is what we mentioned, correct or not? So now we are going to speak about accident. What is the accident? So in bold, you see the one in bold are the words of Al-Imam Nasafi. The one not bold is the words of Al-Imam Taftazani. So let us go back into the Arabic text. The author mentioned والعرض ما لا يقوم بذاته. Substance does not exist by itself. Same what you call it, same translation. Right? So this is any part of the definition. So when we say something is an what you call it, no, there is a different what you call it, there is a one mistake here. This translation is mistake. Arad is not substance and it is accident. So this is you see the difference between what you call it, the Indian translation and the American translation. So even though the American is non-Muslim, but you see what you call it, his translation is better. Let us go back into the American translation. This is what he said. And the accident, correct or not? Al-Arad ya Jama'ah, Al-Arad is an accident. So he said, and the accident is something that does not subsist in itself. That does not, what you call it, he mentioned here, that does not subsist in itself. We go back to the Arabic text, and I will explain by the Arabic text. And in Arabic, the Arabic text, and it says, وَالْعَرَضُ مَا لَا يَقُومُ بِذَاتِهِ. I will explain it. What is the meaning? مَا لَا يَقُومُ بِذَاتِهِ. I mentioned this many a times. So I think those who have been following, and he shouldn't have any problem with this statement. So again, the example is what? Okay, now I give the example of this cup. Tamam? So this cup is a substance, correct? This cup is a substance. The color of the cup is an accident. So let us just give this simple an example. The cup itself is a substance. The color of the cup is an accident. When he say والعرض لا يقوم بذاته, the accident does not what you call stand by itself. It doesn't stand by itself. It means that it does not what you call it be in existence, or it does not be in existence on its own. What is the meaning? It must subsist in the substance. As what we mentioned many a times. Can you remove the color of this cup? Can you remove the color of this cup? we cannot any remove any the color any of this cup. Tamam, the color any of the cup any is an accident. So the accident subsists any in where? In the cup. So it means any it doesn't stand on its own. This is the meaning of ma la yaqumu bidhatihi. It doesn't stand any by its own. Why? Because it is in need of the substance. How can an accident exist any by its own without any the substance? So the question any we ask, can an accident exist any by its own without any substance? Impossible, correct or not? Impossible. Any just like any we are asking just now, for example, movement. Movement is an accident. Can movement be in existence any without any substance? So when we say something is moving, and we are relating to what? A substance any that is moving. But movement any itself any is not in existence. Movement any by itself, it is an accident. So it doesn't stand on its own. It subsists any within the entity, or you say within subsists any within the entity, or subsists any within yani the substance. So this is where the author any mentioned والعرض ما لا يقوم بذاته. So there is as what I mentioned, the translation here, there is a mistake here. I turn any to this text any because of the Arabic text. So arad any is not substance. Arad any is an accident. So it doesn't stand by its own. This is not any good any translation. Now we say la yaqumu bizatihi, any meaning doesn't stand any on its own. If you say that, any that is easier for us any to understand. So those any of it who are following any shouldn't be problem, correct? Not? There is no issue any in this statement. So the author any is going any to define والعرض ما لا يقوم بذاته. So when it comes any to accident, any is something any that does not stand any on its does not stand on its own. What is the meaning any when we say that does not stand any on its own? Meaning it is in need any on something to subsist. Clear inshallah? Then any he mentioned بغيره. So it needs any on something other than him any to subsist in. Al-arad any it needs any on something else. بأن يكون تابعا له في tahayyuz. So it follows any that thing any that takes up any the space. So for example, now the color white any is an accident. So the color white any subsists any within any substance. The substance any take up any the space. So since the accident subsists any within the substance, so it follows any the substance any in taking up space. Clear inshallah? So this is what any he say. بأن يكون تابعا. Later on inshallah we go back into the translation of the American translation. I just explained this Arabic text first, and inshallah we can go back. بأن يكون تابعا له في tahayyuz. So this basically what he's saying. تابعا له. So since the accident doesn't stand on its own, it follows one. It follows the entity. Tamam. So when I move any this cup, the accident follows the substance. I am moving the substance, correct or not? While I'm moving any the substance, any the accident subsists within the substance. So this is the meaning, and he said tabi'an lahu fi tahayyuz. So the substance any take up space. So the accident subsists any within the substance. So when I move any the substance any from one place any to another place, the accident follows. Clear inshallah? The accident follows. The accident follows any the substance. So now any substance any is taking up any space, then the substance any is taking up any another space. The accident follows or does not follow? The accident any follows. So this is basically any what the author is saying. He said بأن يكون تابعا له في التحيز أو مختصا به إختصاص الناعت بالمنعوت. Yani just like any we speak any about attributes. So we say that color any is the attribute. Is the attribute any of this cup. This cup any is white any in color. So this cup any is becomes any something that is specific any in its color. It becomes any specific any in its any color. لا بمعنى أنه لا يمكن تعقله بدون المحل على ما توهم فإن ذلك إنما هو في بعض الأعراض. So the author yani mentioned certain types any of accidents and you can imagine that it exists without any entity, without any subsisting in any entity. So for example, if I were to imagine that the color white is removed from this cup, can I imagine? In terms of imagination, yes, there are certain things and you can imagine, but in reality it cannot happen. So now the author is saying that there are certain things and you can imagine, but in reality it cannot take place. In reality it cannot it cannot take place. But when it comes to imagination, any people can imagine. So it doesn't mean that whatever we imagine can happen in reality. So when it comes to accidents, there are certain types of accidents that we can imagine that it does not subsist in any entity. A person can imagine, for example, the color white, just white, without any substance. Is it possible? Yes, and it is possible. But despite its possibility, it cannot exist in the real world. It cannot exist in any reality. So this is basically what the author is saying pertaining to the accident. So this is what the translation does not we read, and the accident is something that does not subsist in itself, but it subsists in something else. It subsists in something else by being incident to it, in having its boundaries. And this is what I mentioned earlier about moving this cup. So taking up space, and basically speaking about having its boundaries, meaning it takes up any space. It follows the substance in its taking up any of space, or being specialized by it. This is like attributes, just as something descriptive and is specialized by the thing described and has been already said. This does not mean that it cannot be thought of apart from the locus, as has been fancied by some. For that only applies to some of the accidents. Some accidents we can imagine that it exists without the locus or without the substance. توىم. Then after that the author mentioned, he said, ويحدث في الأجسام والجواهر. ويحدث في الأجسام والجواهر. So it subsists in what? He said it subsists in bodies and atoms. Ajsam is a plural of jism, bodies. Jawahir is a plural of jawhar. Jawhar is an atom. So again the example, the simple example of this cup. This cup is a body, correct? No? This cup is jism, substance. Whether we say substance in your body, no issue. This is a substance. The color of the cup is an accident. So we say that the color of the cup, subsists in this cup. The color subsists. So basically the author is saying that accidents they cannot stand on its own. They are dependent on the substance or bodies or jawhar or atoms. And even atoms also we ascribe accidents to it. Now continue. Can you read? But it is originated in bodies and atoms.
But is originated in bodies and atoms.
The thing he said, but is originated. This is the words of Imam Nasafiyyah, you see in bold. Because the sentence before it, he said, and the accident is something that does not exist in itself, but is originated in bodies and atoms. Meaning he's saying that the accidents are something that doesn't stand on its own. Yani it cannot exist by itself, but it subsists within the bodies and atoms. This one basically Al-Imam Nasafiyyah is saying. Now, continue.
Some say that this is added to give an exact definition and to avoid including the attributes of Allah. So
Al-Imam Taftazani he explained this definition of Al-Imam Nasafi. Al-Imam Nasafi he's saying that accidents, al-a'raḍ, it is something that doesn't stand on its own, meaning it doesn't exist by itself. It subsists within any substances and in bodies or even atoms, and it is contingent. And this is the thing that is not mentioned in this translation. And if you look at the Arabic text mentioned وَيَحْدُثُ. Can you see the word يَحْدُثُ? This is from the word hadith. Hadith meaning contingent. So maybe we can add this. It is contingent and subsists in bodies and atoms. So we add the word contingent. So this is the definition of Al-Imam Nasafi. So the Al-Imam Nasafi mentioned that accidents is contingent. Accident is contingent. So Al-Imam Taftazani is saying why Imam Nasafi says the word contingent here. To differentiate between accidents and the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To differentiate between accidents and the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is any the difference between accident and the attributes any of Allah? Accidents any is contingent. Attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are pre-eternal. Clear inshallah? Yeah, you should add, and for those and you have just take note. You should add, he said, والعرض ما لا يقوم بذاته. The first part any is accidents are something that does not stand any on its own, and they are contingent. And they are contingent. Subsisting in bodies and atoms. So this is how any the better translation any will be. I'm translating any the words of Imam Nasafiyyah. Yani if you look at the what you call it, the screen, if you look at my screen, you see in brackets any other words of Al-Imam An-Nasafi. So now we concentrate the words of Imam Nasafi first. The one in brackets. Type how we translate this definition of Imam Nasafi. We say the accidents, والعرض, the accident is something that does not stand on its own, and it is contingent. It is contingent, comma, subsisting in bodies and atoms. This is how it is understood. So there is no but any actually. If you look at the American translation, there is this but, and there is no but in reality. So Al-Imam Taftazani, when he sees this definition, what he made some comment. This is what he comment. He said, قِيلَ وَهُوَ مِن تَمَامِ تَعْرِيفٍ احترازا عن صفات الله تعالى. So he commented on the second part of the definition. Al-Imam Taftazani, he commented on the second part, as though he is asking, why did Al-Imam An-Nasafi mention the second part of the definition? The reason, and he said, to differentiate between accidents and sifat. Accidents and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Type, when we speak about attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we mentioned that attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what you call it, subsist within his entity. So likewise, we say attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't stand on its own, it subsists within the entity. What is the difference between accident and the attributes of Allah? Accidents, it is contingent, whereas attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pre-eternal. Accidents are in need of something else, whereas the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not in need of something else. We cannot be saying that the attributes of Allah is in need of his entity. No. So the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are pre-eternal. They subsist within what you call it, the entity that of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and is not in need of other than what you call it, other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whereas the accidents, we are speaking about contingencies. We are speaking about things that has a beginning. We are speaking about makhluk. This is the difference between accidents and attributes. Inshallah, later on, if anyone has any question, you can ask. And if you have any questions, any of what you call it, I mentioned, inshallah, we will have some time in Q&A, inshallah. But basically, this one and the author mentioned. He say ihtirazan an sifatillah, so that we differentiate between accidents and the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa qila la bal huwa bayanu hukmil arad. And there is an opinion that says that what Al-Imam Nasafi is saying, it is just extending the meaning of the accident. And then he mentioned the types of accident. What are the types and examples of accident? Kal alwani wa usuliha. The first one he mentioned like colors. So colors is a type of accident, and I've been using this example many times, correct or not? Just like earlier I mentioned that this cup is a substance, and the whitish color is the what? Is the accident. So this is the example of colors. Alwan. Wa qila as-sawad wal bayad. Like black and white. Al-humratu wal khudra. What you call it? Red and green. my phone that I'm using and is going to the battery and is going to what? I need it to charge. SubhanAllah. Just give me a minute, nah. Bagaimana you boleh ambilkan charger tak? Charger for my phone. Kalau you pasangkan tu. طيب, so these are the examples, and he said kal alwani wa usuliha as-sawadu wal bayadu al-humratu wal khudratu was sufra. So these are basically the different colors, yani the white and black, red. Pasangkan. Just okay. So I think there is no issue when comes any to these examples. All these are straightforward. Wal bawaqi any bitarkib. So all these any colors any are examples any of accident. So let us any go back any to the translation. Can you read again? And the accident is something.
And the accident is something that does not subsist in itself, and they are contingent, subsisting in bodies and atoms. But it subsists in something else by being incident to it, having its boundaries, or by being specialized by it. Just as something descriptive is specialized by the thing described, as has already been said. This does not mean that it cannot be thought of apart from the locus, as has been fancied by some. For that only applies to some of the accidents.
Now, continue. But is originated?
But is originated in bodies and atoms. But is originated in bodies and atoms. Some say that this is added to give an exact definition and to avoid including the attributes of Allah.
Now, the reason why Al-Imam Nasafi mention what you call it is contingent, and to differentiate between accidents and sifat, arat and sifat of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Now, continue. Such as
colors. The original colors are said to be black and white. Others have said that they are red, green, and yellow, the rest being compounded from them.
Now, this is some many opinions, and he's saying that the origin of colors is black and white, and other colors came up from it. But ala kulli hal, what the author is saying, basically colors is an examples of accident. So that's what we mentioned. Now, continue.
States of coming into being, aqwan, which are combination, al-ijtima, being separated into parts, al-iftiraq, motion, al-harafa, and rest, al-sukun.
Okay, these are also the examples of accidents. The state of coming into being. What is the meaning and the state of coming into being? So let us ponder upon ourselves. 100 years ago we are not in existence, correct or not? 100 years ago we are not in existence. Now we are in existence. So our existence is preceded by non-existence. So what you call it, this itself existence and non-existence is an example of an accident. An example of an accident. So this is the state of coming into being. So whenever you see something that initially does not exist, then after that it came into existence. So this is an example of an accident. This is an example of an accident. Just like movement, for example. Now, what you call it? There is no movement. Meaning movement is not in movement is not in existence. Correct or not? This cup, movement is not in existence. Now I'm moving it. Now movement comes into existence. So this is an example of an accident. Then and after that he mentioned the al-ijtima wal-iftiraq. Yani something that is combined and separated. Initially it is combined, then after that it became separated. So this is also an example of accident. An example of accident. And then we have motion, al-haraka, and sukun. Yani when comes to al-haraka, movement, and also yani in a state of stillness. So this is just some of the examples from the states of coming into being. So states of coming into being, and we can interpret as movement. We can also interpret as al-ijtima' wal-iftiraq. We can also interpret as existence and non-existence. So all this shows that these are the accidents of the accidents, what you call it, examples of accidents. Now, continue.
Taste, there are 9 species of them: bitterness, pungency, saltiness, astringency, acidity, puckeriness, sweetness, breeziness, and insipidity.
So these are pertaining to the taste. So taste is accident. Taste is an accident. So for example, if we eat chili, the hotness of the chili is an accident. The chili is a substance, correct or not? Chili is a substance, but the taste of its what you call it, its taste and its spicy taste, or the hot taste of the chili, it is an accident. So these are the types of taste. So he gave many examples, and he spoke about bitterness. For example, if you eat what you call it, something that is bitter, you can taste its bitterness, correct or not? You can taste any saltiness, and if you eat salt, you can taste the saltiness. You can taste the acidity. You can taste the sweetness of something. So taste basically is just like colors. So just like we say color is an accident, taste is also an accident. So the taste is subsists within the substance, correct or not? So when we give example of salt, for example, salt is a substance. So the taste of salt is an accident. Sugar is a substance. The taste of sugar is sweetiness. It is an accident. So again, all this no issue. Easy for us to understand. No need for me to give any more examples. MashaAllah, the author mentioned there are how many types? How many types of taste? There's about 9 types. Now continue. 2 combinations.
And odors. Two combinations of these, there are innumerable species of taste.
Now there are many other tastes. You can combine all these things. Our tongue that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala gave us in human beings, and we can taste things. What you call it in different forms, and it's ni'mah from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. But basically here what he's saying is that all these tastes are accidents. Now continue.
And odors, al-raadh. There are of many species without special names, and it is most evident that all accidents except the states of coming into being occur only in bodies. If it is established that the world is made up of substances and accidents, and the substances are bodies and atoms, we then may say that everything is originated.
Now this is this going to be part of the conclusion. Why are we studying this? Why are we studying these atoms, substances, bodies, accident? So we say that substance is something that stands on its own. Accident subsists within the substance. So what is the benefit? Again, we ask the question: what is the benefit of us learning this knowledge? The benefit is that once you understand that substances, it has accidents and it subsists within substances, and accidents they change. Accidents, it change, correct or not? Yani when comes into the taste, when comes into the color, when comes to movement, when comes into existence. Last time it is not in existence, now it is in existence. What you call it? Sometimes it is joined, sometimes it is separated. Sometimes it is moving, sometimes it is not moving. So if all substances have any accidents, we cannot imagine any substances without any accidents, and accidents subsist within substances, then we can conclude that substances and accidents are contingent beings. Yani they are originated. Here the translator use the word originated. Any meaning it has a beginning. It has a beginning. How do we know that it has a beginning? Because something that change cannot be pre-eternal. It cannot be it cannot be pre-eternal. If something and it has a beginning, it cannot be pre-eternal. If something is not in existence any last time, then it came into existence, it cannot be pre-eternal. So something and it that moves and does not move. Sometimes and it moves, sometimes it does not move. So movement is contingent. Movement is something that is contingent. So it cannot be pre-eternal. So if accidents cannot be pre-eternal, and it subsists and within substances also cannot be pre-eternal. Because there is no such thing any as you can separate accidents any from any substances. So this is where what you call it, the author yani mentioned. Now we just continue first. Read again. Read some of the accidents. He gave some more examples.
Some of the accidents are known by observation as motion following rest, light following darkness, and blackness following whiteness.
Now, these are accidents any that you can witness with your senses. These are accidents any that you can witness any with your senses. Like what? And he said by observation, motion following rest. Now when this cup is not moving, then it moves. This is by observation, correct or not? So we understand that movement is an accident, and we observe this kind of accident. Likewise, when it comes to light and darkness. Now when we are in night time, earlier when we are in daytime. When we are in daytime, there is light. When we are in night time, there is any darkness. Only this is an accident. This is an accident. So there is a change from darkness to light, from movement to stillness, and this change can be witnessed by observation. This change can be witnessed by observation. Likewise, any blackness following whiteness. Blackness following any whiteness. And then he goes on to speak about, but there are certain things that you do not witness with your senses, but it can be understood. It can be understood. So he will give any examples. I think for today, inshallah ta'ala, we will just stop here. What is important, what we have learned today is basically the definition of accident. Clear, inshallah? The definition of accident and the examples. And he's saying that you can observe the accident, so many of these accidents, and all this bring about to show that substances and accidents are contingencies, that they have a beginning, and everything that has a beginning is created. Anything that has a beginning is created. So basically he's going into what you call it, to prove about the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if everything is created, the universe is created, has a beginning, so there must be a creator. And that is where we will study the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, but right now, basically he's still speaking about accidents, and some of these things require further explanations. So is there any questions so far? I hope it is clear, inshallah. So this is the first time we do this Zoom. Alhamdulillah. So inshallah, if there is no question, anything, inshallah, next week we will see how. I will post in our WhatsApp group. Inshallah. So jazakumullah khair to Brother Nazir for reading. But I hope it's clear, inshallah, on your side, no problem. Okay. Jazakumullah khair. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala sayyidina Muhammad. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. الحمد لله رب العالمين.